Hello. Keeping everything simple and following the call of the heart. This was one of her most touching captions on social media. She was a young, beautiful, and optimistic international student who had just graduated from the University of Technology, Sydney, and landed her dream job, full of hope for the future. Yet, fate seemed to play a cruel trick on her. Just as her life was about to open a new chapter, a quiet nightmare came crashing down. She vanished, disappeared from this world without a trace. Today, we are going to explore the tragic case of a Chinese international student who was murdered in Australia. This case shocked the entire Chinese community there and raised deep concerns about the safety of international students. Who was it that took the bright young life of this woman? Let's go back to 2016 to uncover the details of this case. Australia is a country surrounded by the sea, and the only nation that covers an entire continent. It's also the largest island country in the world. Despite its vast land, ranking 6th in size globally, it has a relatively small population of just 27 million. For this reason, Australia has long welcomed immigrants from abroad. Naturally, the number of international students here is also very high. Many Chinese students choose Australia as their destination. According to the latest data, as of 2023, there were 166,420 Chinese students in Australia, ranking first among all international student groups. Of those, about 75% studied or interned in New South Wales and Victoria, since these regions host many prestigious universities. And the story we're discussing today took place in New South Wales, home to the city of Sydney. The main character of this story is Michelle Leng, also known as Leng Mengmai, from Sichuan, China. With outstanding academic performance, she studied at the University of Technology, Sydney, and had just graduated. Born in 1993 inches, Chengdu, Sichuan, she was the only child in her family. Her parents adored her, and the three of them lived in harmony. She was open and cheerful, loved by friends since childhood. She was always surrounded by a lively group of companions. On top of that, she was an excellent student, cherished by her teachers. In 2008, Leng Mengmai was in her final year of high school, preparing for one of the most important moments of her life, the college entrance exam. With her strong academic background, she had devoted herself to months of intensive study and felt fairly confident. But then, an unexpected disaster struck. On the 12th of May 2008, a devastating earthquake struck Wenchuan, Sichuan. The disaster tore countless families apart. Tragically, Leng Mengmai's father lost his life in that earthquake. Although deeply heartbroken, she pushed through the pressure, continued studying, and successfully completed her college entrance exams. She was admitted to Sichuan University, a prestigious school known for its comprehensive strength, where she majored in broadcasting and television. Her mother found comfort in this. Her daughter was now her pride and her only hope. During her college years, Leng Mengmai remained diligent and hardworking. She even planned to continue striving for an opportunity to study abroad. In this matter, although her mother felt reluctant since it was just the two of them left at home, and going abroad would mean even fewer chances to see each other, she still chose to support her daughter. Eventually, they chose Australia as the destination for her studies. The decision was likely influenced by the fact that Leng Mengmai's aunt was living there. Many believed that for a young woman in a foreign country, having family nearby was always better. In 2011, Leng Mengmai left her mother, the person she had always depended on, and traveled to Australia to study. She enrolled in hotel management at the University of Technology, Sydney, and stayed with her aunt. The house was in Campsie, New South Wales, just over 6 miles from downtown Sydney. The neighborhood was full of Chinese supermarkets and restaurants, making life very convenient. Both commuting to school and work in Sydney were easy. Her aunt's name was Zhang Feng. She didn't live alone. She had a husband, Derek Barrett, who was just 2 years older than Leng Mengmai, and 2 children from his previous marriage. In fact, they had only recently married. Leng Mengmai had even attended their wedding and contributed toward the expenses. And so, the 5 of them lived together. Her aunt never treated her as an outsider, and everyone got along well. Although she was living in a foreign land, her optimistic personality helped her quickly adapt. She built good relationships with friends and, in the following years, studied diligently and achieved excellent results. She often shared joyful moments on social media, from snapshots of food to happy, carefree experiences. It was clear she truly enjoyed her life there. Time flew by, and in 2015, Leng Meng Mai graduated from the University of Technology, Sydney. She wanted to work in Australia for a few years before planning her future. She had discussed this decision with her mother beforehand. To support her, her mother sold a house and borrowed from relatives to purchase a new home in Campsie in April 2014, worth about $470,000 USD. Of course, they had only paid the down payment. To make things easier, her aunt's family of 4 also moved into the new house. Leng Meng Mai quickly found a job as an assistant to her professor. Everything seemed wonderful, and her future was full of promise. But then, something unexpected happened. On the 22nd of April 2016, some of Leng Meng Mai's friends couldn't reach her. She didn't pick up her phone or reply to messages, which was completely unlike her usual habits. Her aunt also tried but failed to get in touch. At that time, her aunt was working in Wollongong, about 25 miles away, roughly an hour by train. Although a bit worried, she thought that since it was a holiday weekend in Australia, Leng Meng Mai might have gone with friends to Blue Mountain for sightseeing. The phone signal there was poor, so no one thought much of it. At 10:40 a.m., on the 24th of April, 2 days later, a tourist visiting Snapper Point at the Central Coast, near Newcastle, noticed something floating in the water that looked like a person and immediately called the police. After receiving the report, police quickly arrived at the scene and pulled the body from the water. They confirmed it was a young woman, wrapped in plastic, between 20 and 30 years old, with black hair. The victim had multiple severe injuries and showed signs of being tied with rope. The estimated time of death was about 48 hours earlier. The initial judgment was that this was a deliberate murder case, with the killer intentionally disposing of the victim here. There were no signs of the body colliding with rocks, suggesting this wasn't the original crime scene. Unfortunately, after being submerged in water for too long, many important clues had been destroyed. Fingerprints and other evidence couldn't be recovered. On top of that, the victim's face was severely damaged, making identification impossible. To move the investigation forward, the police created a computer-generated image of the victim's face and released it publicly, hoping for leads. On the afternoon of the 25th of April, Leng Meng Mai's aunt and uncle went to the police, reporting that their niece had been missing for 3 days and asking for help in finding her. Police suspected that the victim discovered the day before might be Leng Meng Mai. However, since the victim's face was severely damaged and there were no clear identifying features, confirming the identity wasn't easy. Investigators decided to compare DNA. They collected her toothbrush, comb, and other personal items for testing. On the 26th of April, while the DNA results were still pending, the search effort for Leng Meng Mai grew louder. Many classmates and friends posted online, especially one who had seen her on the afternoon of the 21st of April. The Chinese community in Australia was shaken, and everyone was deeply concerned for her safety. After several agonizing days of waiting, at 8 a.m. on the 29th of April, the police finally released the DNA results. The victim found at Snapper Point was indeed Leng Meng Mai. When her mother heard the news, she fainted in grief. She had already endured the pain of losing her husband, and now she had to face the heartbreaking reality of losing her only daughter just as she had reached adulthood. Everyone wanted to know the truth. Who could be so cruel? Leng Meng Mai had always lived peacefully with her aunt's family, and no conflicts had ever been reported. So her relatives were not suspected at all. Her aunt told the police that on the 21st of April, Leng Meng Mai had been out all day. When she returned home that afternoon, everything seemed normal. Her last contact with the outside world was at midnight on the 21st of April when she spoke with her teacher. After that, all communication stopped. Investigators believed she may have been killed on the 22nd of April. Could it be that she had been followed by someone dangerous on the 21st of April and later attacked? The police decided to investigate Leng Meng Mai's movements. Through surveillance cameras, they reconstructed her day on the 21st of April. First, she went to school to meet some classmates. At around 3 p.m., she shopped on Pitt Street in downtown Sydney. After shopping, she took the subway from Town Hall Station to Campsie, arriving around 4:40 p.m., then headed home. Footage showed that whether she was shopping or on the train, she appeared completely normal, with no signs of being followed. It seemed unlikely she had encountered danger on the street. From the surveillance footage, it was clear that after Leng Meng Mai returned home on the afternoon of the 21st of April, there was no record of her leaving the house again. Coincidentally, from the 21st of April to the 22nd of April, the only people at home were her and her uncle. Her aunt was working in Wollongong and didn't return until the evening of the 24th of April, while her 2 children were also away. This analysis turned suspicion towards someone previously overlooked. The possible suspect was her uncle. So, the police arrested him, charged him with murder, and obtained a search warrant. Let me introduce this uncle briefly. His full name was Derek Barrett, born in 1,989 inches, a small town called Guandalan on the Central Coast. Not much is known about his early life, but after graduation he worked in the IT department of a tech company. It remains unclear why he pursued Leng Meng Mai's aunt, who was nearly 20 years older than him. Not long after they got together, he lost his job. For the next 5 years, he barely worked. His lifestyle was simple, sleeping during the day and playing video games at night. Although the family urged him many times to find work or risk becoming useless, he always replied that he had applied somewhere, but no news ever came. Even without a job and somewhat lazy, he seemed to have a good temperament. He was polite and respectful toward the 4 family members, including Leng Meng Mai, and no conflicts were ever reported. That's why everyone lived in harmony. Could someone who seemed so gentle really be the one who harmed Leng Meng Mai? His wife and 2 children could not believe that the man they had lived with for 5 years could be capable of such an act. The family insisted the police had arrested the wrong person. But was that really true? Was he truly a good man? As the investigation deepened, more incriminating clues about Barrett began to surface. 2 tourists told police they had seen him at Snapper Point on the Central Coast. At that time, he warned them not to go near the cliff, saying it was dangerous. Looking back, it seemed he was afraid they might discover what he had just left behind. Surveillance cameras also recorded Barrett driving into the National Reserve, the location of Snapper Point, early on the 24th of April. On the way, he stopped at a gas station to buy a drink, and that too was captured on camera. He appeared calm and collected at the time. Police also recovered 19 disturbing photos of Leng Meng Mai from Barrett's phone. These images, later restored by forensic experts, revealed she had been restrained and photographed against her will. From his computer, investigators found even more evidence showing that Barrett had secretly been recording her for quite some time. He had hidden pinhole cameras behind mirrors in the bathroom to secretly record Leng Meng Mai. Shockingly, he did the same even to his own wife. He would sneak into their rooms at night, engaging in disturbing behavior while they were asleep, all of it recorded. Clearly, he was a deeply twisted individual. The warning combines clues from many sides, along with evidence and witnesses, to deduce the entire process of Barrett's crime as follows. Barrett has a sick obsession with his niece, Lan Mong Mai. Previously, all his existence in the family was just a cover. In fact, he was always looking for opportunities to violate her. On the 21st of April, his wife had gone to work for 3 days and wouldn't be back until later, while the children were also away. The opportunity he had been waiting for finally arrived. That afternoon, Leng Meng Mai returned home in high spirits, unaware that the monster had been waiting all along. That evening, after calling her aunt and her teacher, Barrett, who had been preparing for this moment, slipped into her room. Although Leng Meng Mai resisted with all her strength, a young woman like her was no match for him. In the end, she was tied up and cruelly assaulted. On the 22nd of April, Barrett continued his disturbing behavior. But at around 3 p.m., his wife unexpectedly returned home and stayed for about 3 hours. During that time, Barrett locked himself in the bathroom, keeping the shower running the entire time. He rushed to the kitchen once and quickly went back, acting as if he was afraid his daughter might check on him. Later, his daughter wanted to wash her hair and needed shampoo from the bathroom. Barrett only opened the door slightly, handed out the shampoo, and told her to use another bathroom. At that time, Leng Meng Mai was still inside, possibly still alive. Tragically, his wife had no idea that something so terrible was unfolding inside her own home. Police believed that if his wife had discovered Barrett's cruelty, then she might have become a victim too. Over the next 2 days, only Barrett and Leng Meng Mai were at home. For reasons that remain unclear, he attacked her repeatedly, with the fatal wound being to her neck. After carrying out his violent act, he tried to find a way to get rid of the evidence. He thought of the cliffs at Snapper Point on the Central Coast, not far from his parents' home. The terrain was rugged, with powerful waves crashing against the rocks. To him, it seemed like the perfect place to hide what he had done. On the morning of the 24th of April, he wrapped Leng Meng Mai's body in plastic, placed it in his trunk, and drove about 62 miles to Snapper Point, Along the way, he stopped at a gas station for a drink, captured on camera. After disposing of her, he deliberately went to his parents' house, just a few miles from Snapper Point, so that if police ever questioned why he had driven there, he could claim he was simply visiting family. That evening, Barrett picked up his wife, pretending nothing had happened. He even mentioned that Leng Meng Mai hadn't come home yet. On the 25th of April, at his wife's request, the two went to the police to file a report. What followed, the world already knows. The police investigation made sense. Every clue pointed to Barrett, the man who had lived under the same roof for 5 years, as the killer. Yet, he continued to deny everything. After hearing the devastating news about her daughter, Leng Meng Mai's mother immediately flew to Sydney. In an interview, she broke down in tears, saying, "Even now, I cannot accept the truth that my beloved daughter is gone. The pain is so overwhelming that I can hardly breathe." When she learned that Barrett was the killer, her shock only deepened. She had always had a good relationship with her younger sister. Otherwise, she would never have allowed her daughter to live with them. She believed her sister knew nothing of Barrett's actions. Everyone had been deceived by his cunning facade. Leng Meng Mai's aunt was also overwhelmed with guilt. She regretted not recognizing her husband's true nature sooner. On the 4th of May 2016, the first court session in the case of Leng Meng Mai, also known as Michelle Leng, was held. Her mother, relatives, and friends attended. However, the accused, Derek Barrett, did not appear. His lawyer claimed that Barrett pleaded not guilty, insisting he was innocent and would soon seek bail. On the 29th of June 2016, the case was retried at the local court. In addition to the murder charge, Barrett faced 27 other counts, including unlawful detention, harassment, and secret recordings without consent. Prosecutors informed Leng Meng Mai's mother that it was only a preliminary hearing and she didn't need to attend. Yet, despite her poor health, she once again traveled from Chengdu to Sydney. She said, "Even if I have to sell my only home and lose everything, I will make sure the killer pays. My daughter is gone, so I must do everything I can to see that he faces justice. Keeping someone like him in society is dangerous. If released, he would harm others again. Let him spend his life in prison, repenting." As new evidence emerged in the case, the trial was postponed to the 10th of August 2016, and then delayed again. During this time, Barrett tried to evade responsibility by pretending to have a mental illness. However, after medical evaluation, he was found completely healthy. Perhaps he knew deep down that escaping justice would be impossible, so he never applied for bail. Time passed, and on the 16th of August 2017, the trial resumed at the local court. This time, Barrett attended via video rather than in person. He admitted to 5 of the 28 charges, including murder and unlawful detention. Yet, he insisted that he could not remember what happened, only recalling standing in front of a sink covered in blood. He claimed that heavy meth use and excessive eating had caused him to lose control of his actions. It was clear that this was an attempt to lessen his responsibility. On the 13th of December 2017, the Supreme Court of New South Wales held the sentencing hearing. Barrett was present in person. He admitted that he had broken into Leng Meng Mai's room in the early hours of the 22nd of April, ignored her resistance, restrained her on the bed, took photographs, and stabbed her multiple times. He hid her body in the house for 2 days before disposing of it. During the trial, he began to show remorse. "My actions have betrayed 2 families. She was a very beautiful girl. I feel ashamed of what I did. I am here to tell the truth, to offer a small measure of help, whether they accept it or not." Yet throughout the proceedings, he kept his head down, covering his eyes with a tissue. Police believed this display was insincere. At the trial, Barrett again claimed he could not remember the events, only recalling an argument and seeing fresh blood in the sink. He said, "I don't know. Every day I think about how this happened and why I did it. It makes me very sad." Regarding his memory loss, he blamed heavy meth use and excessive eating before the crime, claiming the drugs controlled him without his awareness. Naturally, police did not believe him. Forensic psychologists noted that meth rarely causes memory loss, especially at the doses Barrett claimed. Moreover, reviewing the crime, it was clear he acted deliberately. From killing to handling the body, each step was purposeful and logical. Surveillance cameras showed him filling gas and buying drinks, indicating he was alert and calm. Experts concluded, all evidence showed he was an extremely dangerous sexual predator, with a risk of reoffending 10 to 100 times higher than normal. Prison was the only suitable place for him. Ultimately, Barrett was charged with a total of 22 offenses, including 19 counts of secretly recording genital areas without consent, 2 counts of possessing pornographic materials, and murder. 2 days later, Justice Helen Wilson of the Supreme Court of New South Wales declared that Barrett's actions were extremely cruel, evil, and cowardly. His claims of drug-induced memory loss were entirely fabricated. During the trial, Barrett occasionally shed tears, but it lacked sincerity, seeming more like a performance of remorse. Overall, he was a cold-blooded individual. After full consideration, he was sentenced to 46 years in prison, with no parole for 34 years and 6 months. Faced with this outcome, the grieving mother wept in court. She knew that Australia has no death penalty, so her only hope was to see Barrett imprisoned permanently. Although the result was not as she wished, she had no other choice. The case had been prolonged, and she had repeatedly struggled with her exhausted body, traveling back and forth between Sydney and Chengdu. Both physically and mentally, she was drained. Most heartbreakingly, she said through tears, "My Meng Mai is gone. My life is completely shattered, and nothing can ever make it whole again." Has very buddy tate favement. With the final verdict announced, the case shocked both China and Australia, and finally came to a close. The perpetrator had been punished, yet everyone remained deeply saddened by Leng Meng Mai's passing, as a police officer told the media outside the courthouse. "From the investigation results, we achieved a fair trial and verdict. But overall, the entire situation is a tragedy." Indeed, Meng Mai had worked hard to enter university, studied abroad, and achieved academic success. Her promising life had abruptly ended. As time passed and Barrett was imprisoned, the tragedy gradually settled. But no one expected that the appearance of a USB would once again thrust this case into the spotlight. 3 years after the crime, in November 2019, an elderly woman living in Strathfield, more than 3 miles from the house where Meng Mai was killed, somehow came into possession of a USB drive. The woman, who had suffered from Alzheimer's disease for many years, used a wheelchair at home and rarely left the house. Her daughter was just as surprised and had no idea how her mother had gotten the USB. Curious, she plugged the USB into a computer. It contained several videos and images. Upon viewing, the content horrified her to the point of lifelong trauma. She decided to report it to the police and handed over the USB. The police were shocked by the depravity it revealed. The USB contained 9 videos totaling about 60 minutes and 13 disturbing photographs. All depicted Barrett humiliating Meng Mai in a highly perverse manner, filmed from multiple angles. He treated her not as a human being but as an inanimate object to abuse and violate at will. One clip showed Meng Mai crying, "You're crazy, what are you doing? You can't treat me like this." From her tears and contorted face, it was evident she endured extreme fear and pain, yet was powerless to escape, ultimately falling into the hands of the monster. After reviewing the USB's content, the police immediately filed new charges against Barrett. Thousands of miles away, Meng Mai's mother received the devastating news, causing her to collapse once again. Over the years, she had endured her daughter's suffering with tears, yet no one expected even greater horrors lurked behind. She said, "No mother in the world could accept such news. My Meng Mai was a kind, sensible, dutiful, and obedient child. Hearing what she endured breaks my heart." During this period, Barrett sent a letter of apology to Meng Mai's mother from prison, but it was filled with empty words. Her mother refused to accept it. Even more infuriating, during his appeal, Barrett continued to claim he was controlled by drugs. He even told a prison guard that he and Meng Mai had a consensual romantic relationship. Clearly, he never truly admitted guilt or felt remorse. Justice Helen Wilson of the Supreme Court of New South Wales stated that if she had known about the existence of the USB at the time, she would have imposed a life sentence without parole. Unfortunately, double jeopardy rules prevent punishing the same crime twice, so she could not do so now. However, based on the content of the USB, the police filed 9 new charges against Barrett and imposed an additional 25 years in prison. However, this sentence would run concurrently with his previous 46-year term. This means Barrett's total sentence would not increase, but his non-parole period was extended from 34 years to 36.5 years. He will thus be eligible for parole on the 27th of October 2052. The story ends here. In the era of globalization, countless young people like Leng Meng Mai carry their dreams to distant lands. They are courageous, yet also vulnerable. In a foreign land, we often have a false sense of safety, assuming that danger comes from strangers or hidden corners. However, reality shows that sometimes the greatest threats lurk right beside us. The Meng Mai case concluded with Barrett's sentencing, yet the pain and horror of his crimes remain. The bright life of a young girl was cruelly taken by someone she trusted. This tragedy leaves more than sorrow. It is a stark warning, especially for those living or studying far from home. Meng Mai's story reminds us that even among familiar people, vigilance must not be relaxed. Sometimes danger does not come from far-off shadows but lurks right beside us, hidden behind a mask of trust. Always stay alert, listen to your intuition, and do not hesitate to speak up if you feel unsafe, no matter who it involves. Understanding your new environment, connecting with the community, and regularly sharing information with family and friends are crucial. Never underestimate the importance of basic self-defense skills, as ultimately, your safety is your own responsibility. Let Meng Mai's story serve as a painful yet necessary reminder, helping us to value and protect our lives even more. Today's video ends here, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.